No, it's fixed. Hello and welcome to the City of Irvine Mayoral debate presented by US Media. Today's debate is sponsored by following community organizations: Los Angeles Telugu Association, Elegant Culture and Tradition Center, and Telugu Association of Southern California. Many of us watched the presidential and vice presidential debate last week, which are focused mainly on national and global issues. But there are a whole other set of issues that impact our day-to-day lifestyle, which are our local city issues. Irvine being named as the safest city of its size for the 15th year and a master planned city and a population of 287,000 as of 2019. A number of corporations, particularly in the technology and semiconductor sector, have their national and international headquarters in Irvine. Irvine is also home to several higher educational institutions, including the University of California, UCI, and many other institutions. Thank you all for joining Irvine City Mayoral Debate 2020. Hi, this is Kishore Tangirala, the solutions architect and a small business owner, and most importantly, the residents of a beautiful city of Irvine. I'm honored to be today's moderator for this Mayoral Debate 2020 and proud to be part of this process of great democracy. Like so many things this year, today's debate is going to look a little different. In the interest of safety, our candidates today are appearing remotely from their locations of their choice. Unlike regular norms, today both candidates will not try to handshake each other. Now we welcome today's debate participant, Mayor Christina Shea and current council member Farrah Khan. Mayor Shea and council member Farrah Khan, thank you both for joining us today under these unusual circumstances.
Very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Before we start, we quick glance on today's debate format. Today, there will not be any opening statements from candidates. This debate will have a set of questions addressing a set of local city concerns and strategies. These questions are not a personal views of the moderators, and they're not shared with any of the sponsoring organizations, nor with the candidates. The candidates receiving the question will have 2 minutes to answer, and the other candidate will get 2 minutes for the rebuttal. If the participants interrupt your response, you might get additional 30 seconds with the discretion of the moderator. Again, it's the discretion of the moderator. And both parties agreed for these terms and conditions. The other person joining me today is Mahesh Velagapudi, who is my partner in moderating today's debate. With that, here comes the first question, starting with Mayor Shea. We'll start by getting a sense of your vision for the city. Over the past year, Irvine had to navigate through the several challenging issues. What is your vision for the future of Irvine in 2021?
Well, number one, thank you so much for inviting me today. Welcome to my home. It is a very unique forum setting. We usually are meeting in a location that everyone could attend, but you're in my office downstairs, so I want to welcome you. And again, we talked about the presidential debate. I know our debate is going to be much kinder and much more friendly because we have worked together well as colleagues on the city council. But the vision for Irvine moving forward, definitely this has been a very unprecedented time. No one understood that we were going to be going through COVID-19. We started January 2020 thinking, oh, it's going to be a great year. We all start a new year thinking good things are going to happen, great things in our family. And look what happened to us. We're all wearing masks when we go out. Whoever thought this could happen. Our problem is it's really a financial issue. Besides other layered issues dealing with unemployment, we are one of the strongest and most vibrant business hubs in the United States. but we have lost over 18,000 jobs because of COVID-19. And so many businesses, and Farrah will agree, we get letters all the time that businesses are closing their doors because they just can't maintain the whole dynamic of keeping their doors shut. So that to me is the number one focus that we're going to have to be looking at moving down the coming year. We're going to have to really focus on how do we get the business back up and moving. I am going to be creating a mayor's council, mayor's business council. If I am reelected, I will be sitting down. I've been talking to multiple businesses, the chamber. I want to create a council that we start finding solutions and working together as a coordinated effort to make sure that we're bringing business and finances back. Because if we don't have these dollars coming into the city, our business retail is so important for us to maintain the budget to make sure that we can pay for our parks, our open space, and our sports.
Thank you, Mahesh. Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
so welcome. Thank you.
your time up. And Council Member Farrah Khan, it's your time now.
Thank you. So, one of the first things that happened when we learned about the pandemic and how it's going to affect our city is I did reach out to our mayor and we held a forum with not only our Business Chamber of Commerce, but UCI folks, people from the healthcare industry, from the education industry, and really brought them together to see what the next steps were going to be like. And it's going to be important for us to keep that communication, line of communication open as we move forward. So for the next year, we're looking at not only navigating out of this pandemic safely, but at the same time, taking care of our residents and our businesses. We're going to have people who have deferred their rents, their mortgages, even their rents on their business properties. And so once the pandemic is over, hopefully by next year, we're going to see them not only paying their current rent and mortgage, but paying back their deferred amounts. And it's going to be very critical for us to have those relationships at the state and federal levels to get those grant dollars from the CARES Act, from the HEROES Act, back to our city so that we can help our residents and our businesses get back on their feet. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that we're facing. And at the same time, we're going to be looking at how do we reopen safely according to the state's guidelines and making sure that we are not putting our residents and our community in any sort of a risk when it comes to their health and wellness.
Thank you, Council Member Farrah Khan. And we'll move on to the next question. This is for Mayor Shea. The world encountered this unexpected situation with COVID-19, and Irvine is no exception to that. With this uncertainty, what health and safety measures has the city put in place currently to protect the public health? And how are you planning to mitigate and manage this for the community until things get back to normal?
Well, thank you very much for that question. Number one, the city of Irvine is really, in most cities in Orange County, that is not our directive, is to be overseeing the public health. We are to oversee our community and their protection to a certain degree. The County of Orange actually has that mandate by the state of California. But I would say that in beginning of April, and I'm on this large mayor's council, all the mayors in Orange County, we've been working together collaboratively to come up with solutions and answers. But in early April, I brought forward the concept we should all be wearing masks. And on our committee meetings, a few of the mayors were very skeptical. They said, well, the CDC doesn't say that's okay. The state of California health department doesn't agree with that. The county health department doesn't agree with that. And so where we are today is all these agencies are saying, yes, we need to wear a mask. We have been out sharing a huge amount of large donations of masks throughout the city to protect our residents. And that to me is a very strong movement to get us back out of our homes and to be integrating into the community to start business back up as long as we're all wearing masks. So I would say that that was probably the number one thing I did move forward with. We have worked as a city to make sure that we are getting through the Orange County mayors and the County of Orange. We've collaborated and we've brought in CARES money to the city of Irvine. And we have been providing opportunities for our business community to get grants. We also provided grants for our renters that they could get a one-time designation of monies to help them and also with their lease breaks. So we've been excuse me, we've been doing multiple approaches to ensure that our residents that have been struggling and suffering are getting the help they need, but it's not enough. We're going to have to continue this effort. We have to continue to lobby, which I'm doing with our mayor's council, with the federal government, to get more money coming back into our communities, to make sure that this is just not a short-term obligation by cities. It's a long-term obligation. And also, we created a testing site at our Great Park, and that testing site is the first one in Orange County that's provided testing for our residents, and we're very proud
Thank
of
you.
that plan.
Thank you. Your time is up. And uh, Councilmember Farrakhan, it's your turn now.
Sure, thank you. So yes, I mean, I think our city has been on the forefront when it came to taking care of our residents' health and safety. Not only did we initiate, wearing masks, but we made sure that we mandated them and enforced them as well. Outside of that, we did a whole bunch of distribution of masks. I myself, when our dentists were ready to reopen, worked with several nonprofits to make sure that they had the PPE that was necessary for them to reopen safely, and held a drive for all of our Irvine dentists where we gave them not only the gowns, the face mask, the face shield, and gloves, but made sure that they had enough of each item so they could open up safely because they had donated a lot of their stuff to the healthcare providers. And then also that, besides that, health and wellness, besides the testing, we wanted to make sure that our families were fed during this time. And so I've actually supported 3 food drives in our city, 2 major ones at the Great Park and a smaller one with our Irvine Community Land Trust, making sure that we provided fresh fruits and vegetables for our families that were in need. And outside of that, one of the things that I learned during this pandemic was that we really didn't have a health and wellness component to our general plan. So I made sure that I worked with our staff to add that component so we can review how many hospitals we have, how many healthcare providers do we have, and do we have enough for our growing community so that in case anything ever happens, we're better equipped than we were this time.
Thank you very much. I would request for like your voice seems to be still a little low. If there is any way to either speak out loud or come close to your microphone.
I will try to be as loud as I can.
I know. I just want to make sure like the viewers will be audible to your speech. Thank you, and we'll be moving to the next one. So I understand like you guys have a clear vision on 2021 and how to recover, and this is specific to again the COVID related. Because that's a main concern now. So many small businesses, local restaurants permanently shuttered recently due to this economic hardship. This pandemic has placed in our city and expecting more to close permanently before we are out of this. What plans do you have for these amazing restaurants, community job providers, and the pillars of our community to ensure they can reopen safely and they can reopen permanently and they have a fighting chance for the survival as we push our way out of this pandemic? This is specific to how to help small businesses to come back to life again. And the question goes to Mayor Shea.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Sorry, one of my neighbors is walking by with her little daughter, so my window is open. This is something I just brought up earlier. I'm going to be creating a mayor's council. I'm working with also our Orange County Mayor's Coalition, as I said, and it is very important that our small businesses get back on their feet. Again, it's not a short-term solution, it's a long-term solution. And when I was mayor back in 1996 to 2000, one of my strongest proposes and policies was to work to develop business in the city of Irvine. I work with Destination Irvine. We brought so many unique businesses here to the city of Irvine. We created an auto hub, and this is what I love to do. This is what I do very successfully. I have an experience in working with businesses. So again, we do have to encourage our businesses. It's not an easy answer. It's going to take time, But again, we are under the directive of the state of California. And if we don't follow their directive, we can lose care monies and have to pay back millions and millions of dollars. So we're really caught between a rock and a hard place to be getting aggressive about opening business when in fact the state of California has this umbrella of pressure on all of us that you can't open, you can't do this. And I find it very frustrating and somewhat arbitrary, some of the decisions that have been made. So I will be working very diligently, again, as I said, as the mayor with the Chamber of Commerce, with our Destination Irvine program, and making sure that I am listening to our small business and we can find a creative and advocation to advocate for our business with the state of California. But we are under a very difficult mandate by the state that's really controlling a lot of what we do here in Irvine. And like I said, to lose millions of dollars of care money would be very difficult, knowing that this year we had an $18 million deficit, next year a $17 million deficit, the year after probably 16 million. We have to be very cautious navigating this, but very proactive and very creative how to get our business back to work. But I'm 100% in support of doing whatever we need to do to re-energize and invigorate our business community here in Irvine.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Um, so the same question goes to Farah. And as the mayor explained, her challenges in making the businesses recover, like what is your stand on it? So how to make the small business recover from the current crisis?
Absolutely. For me, it's very crucial because I myself am a small business owner. My husband and I, we run our own restaurant as well. So I understand what people are going through right now because we're going through it at the same time. And there wasn't enough funding for small businesses. What we're what we're facing right now is that even at the time when we knew that the county got $530 million from the CARES Act funding, we as a city only received $5 million to help our small businesses. And so it is very important for us to keep pushing, not only the county, the state, and also the federal government. Right now, we need to get that HEROES Act funding out of the Senate so it comes down to the local level because, a 10,000 grant for one time basically pays your 1 month's rent, if even that, because rents are very expensive in Irvine. And so we need to make sure that we are preparing our businesses as they reopen. Right now, they're reopening at 25%, but they've had to do a lot of readjustment, a lot of changes, whether it was outdoor dining, whether it was indoors, making sure they had plexiglass, servers had PPE. There were so many changes that they had to invest in that we can't expect them to just jump back into business. We need to make sure that we're getting that grant money down to the local level so we can help those businesses not only reopen successfully, but thrive in the years to come. Because we can't afford to have any more businesses closing their doors. It not only hurts our economy here locally, but it hurts the family that's running the business, it hurts the employees that are working there. So it's a chain reaction that we have to stop. And that's why it's going to be very important to have leadership that is working on all different levels to get that money back into our local hands so we can help our community out.
Thank you.
Do we have an opportunity to respond or no?
Sure, please go ahead.
Just a quick
We'll have
rebuttal.
1 minute for the,
It's nothing negative. I
yes,
just
we'll have
wanted to
1 minute
say
for it.
this whole concept of outdoor dining was something I brought forward. I met with the Irvine company. I met with our business community. And I said, you know what we need to do? We need to open up space in our centers to allow businesses to operate during the summer months. And that's exactly what they did, and which has been very successful across the county of Orange. And I also brought forward the proposal at the Great Park to have outdoor concerts and outdoor movies to make sure that our residents felt that they had an opportunity to get out of their homes and feel like summer is still something they could participate in a safe way. So I just wanted to share that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. All right, the next question goes to Farrah Khan. In your campaign statement, you mentioned that you plan on working towards initiating a new technology and resources to cut costs and generate additional revenues for our city. Can you elaborate on your statement, like how you plan cutting down and costs and generating additional revenues, and where are you planning on spending these additional revenues, and how do you think this is practically implementable?
Absolutely. So, one of the first things I did when I got elected is I brought together our Public Works Department and SCE and asked them why our street lights weren't LED yet. And because I've seen that in other cities. And basically the response was our city never got in the queue to have those updated. And so we made sure that we were in the queue, and I believe we're scheduled for 2021 to have all of our street lights replaced with LED, which is going to be a huge cost reduction for our city. And so now I'm actually working on Community Choice Energy, a program that I have been working on since 2015. And that is really taking control of where our energy comes from, breaking that monopoly that SCE has and bringing it down to the local control. And what we can do there is we can procure energy that is renewable energy, thereby, since we're not a public entity, we are going to be a city-owned entity. We can reduce the rates for our residents because we're not going to be talking about profits. But at the same time, it'll be generating revenue for our city where we can put that revenue back into programs and services for our community members. And one thing I want to be very clear about is this is a program that we have seen succeed in so many different cities throughout California. None of them, even during the pandemic, have been affected by changeover to community choice energy. So what we're looking at today is a little bit of investment today for long-term effects. And that's really how we should be thinking for our city is what are the decisions we're making today that are going to affect us when it comes to long-term goals? How is our city going to look in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Because once we fully develop, a chunk of that revenue that comes from new development is going to decrease. And we're going to have to find new ways to generate revenue so that we can continue providing the quality of life that our residents are accustomed to.
Thank you, Farrah. Um, so now opportunity to Mayor Shea, like Farrah explained her strategies like for the new technology and all. You being in office for a long time, so you face the challenges to implement several of these things, right? So can you elaborate like, is Farrah plans, like are they practically implementable? If not, why would you not do it?
Well, you know what? I'm very creative. I'm a very creative person. I've always been very creative. I've had brought forward many wonderful initiatives in the city of Irvine. But when you're going through a pandemic and your city is in an $18 million deficit within a 4-month window, and next year we're looking at a $17 million deficit, and the year after a $16 million deficit, we have major concerns about maintaining just the present quality of life we have. And so, just to answer some of this uh, issue about the LED lights and whatever, I brought work with our staff. We brought forward the LEED certification program back in 2000, I believe it was in 2004. And all of our developers were not required, but it was a goal to turn and ask them to make sure that homeowners are buying into these packages of LEED certification, energy efficiency programs. And so many homeowners have actually done that on their own without being mandated. But I'm very concerned. I am very supportive of a lot of environmental issues. I brought forth the non-toxic pesticide program in 2016. We were just honored by the EPA in California in February for that, that we don't spray any more glyphosate in our parks, open spacing green belts, protecting our children from cancer and our animals and our wildlife. But and I'm very supportive of the concept of community choice energy, but this is going to be an upfront commitment of $10 million plus, and to form a JPA. And you don't form a brand new bureaucracy in the city when you're going through huge economic downturns. There is too much risk. If we could bring on cities, and we're looking to do that, and if we have other cities in Orange County, but many are on the verge of bankruptcy, would join us, that takes the pressure off the city of Irvine from getting into a huge debt overhead. And again, it was a 2% return on this investment. Now the consultants are saying it's only a 0.5% to go into this renewable energy program. I support it 100%, but is this the time to do it? And before we just rush into something and hope that it's going to generate the revenues we need for the future, we have to be
Yeah,
much
thank
more
you.
thoughtful and very
Yeah,
conservative about how we look at our dollars that we spend.
yeah, thank you very much.
Could I add just a little bit to that?
Sure, you'll have 1 minute to
Sure.
reply.
So really what the program cost is, it doesn't cost the city anything because it's a $10 million overall program cost, but it is a loan that we get repaid back. So basically, we will be looking at bankers that have agreed, and I've spoken to our attorneys that have agreed to lend us the money that gets repaid back by the revenues that we create. So within 2 years, that $10 million is repaid back, but the revenue starts kicking in year three. And so for right now, $130,000 is what we agreed on as a council and voted on to get us through to December. And for all of 2021, it's a $2 million investment. So it comes in increments. It's not all at once. And we do have cities that are interested in joining the JPA. We never want to do this on our own because we don't want to affect our general funds. But as a JPA, it takes the burden off the city. So we're not adding it on as a city project. It's an independent JPA that is run by a board elected by city members from different cities. And at the same time, the money
Yeah.
that we invest today is repaid back. And we do, whether it's 5.5 or 2%.
Thank you, Farrah.
And if I could just say, the problem we're talking about is just a loan. The loan is encumbering debt on our city facilities that we have never done that before. Our city has completely paid for all of our facilities. So to encumber debt, like putting a loan on your home during this difficult time, we have to be much more thoughtful about how we're moving forward. It's a good idea, but we have to think this through in a much better way. So thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. So we'll move on to the next question. Like I know, like it can elaborate more, and it's a deeper subject. But let's move on to another interesting topic here. This is something related to the statements that we heard around. This question is to Farah. You mentioned in your statement that we can't solve tomorrow's challenges with yesterday's thinking. Today's norms is different from yesterday. Can you elaborate top three challenges you expect to face in office tomorrow, and how would you react to those differently in a COVID situation versus a normal situation?
Sure. So again, because of COVID, the top three issues we'll be facing are navigating outside of this pandemic safely. Second will be the economic crisis that comes and how are we going to handle that to make sure that not only we as a city are surviving, but then our residents and our businesses are surviving. And three is really looking at the concerns from our community members and acting appropriately on those issues. So we've got a lot of social justice issues that are coming up. And in our next council meeting, I'm putting forward a resolution that basically includes diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's really to make sure that we're looking at equity across the board, not just in our hiring practices, in our contracting practices, but also in our housing. How are we making sure that we are reaching out to every community member and taking care of them in our city? That's going to be key as we move forward to make sure there's equity across the board. And that's something that I feel is very crucial right now. And we have to deal with it no matter whether we're in the pandemic or not. And again, reaching for those new technology sources is going to be crucial as we move forward. And for CCE, it's something that's happening because our council actually voted on it. So we are moving forward with it. And there's, it's happening and we've got great interest for it. So I'm looking forward to making sure that as we are coming out of this pandemic, we're taking out care of our own communities. We're taking care of people when it comes to social justice issues, and we're moving forward together as a united front.
All right, thank you, Farah. And Christina, this is a sort of like a timeline question that we are discussing here, right? Yesterday versus today versus tomorrow. So you being in office for a long time and you experience a lot of challenges here. So
Yes.
how do you react to these like time travel issues and solve that? What challenges are you expecting if you re-elected into the office next month?
Well, I would say that, these are unprecedented times again. It's not over COVID, but there's also these issues of social injustice that people are very concerned about, and in many ways, very justifiably so. How they resolve it has been a concern to me, but it certainly is an issue that we have, will deal with. But I would say the city of Irvine, we have 150 languages in our city. We get along well. We have a global village that we host every year. We have such a great interaction and integration of all of our different cultures. So to pull out the concept that we have issues and we need to fix them, we're actually a light on a hill. I tell folks that if you go around the United States, we are the poster child for how to get along, how to have so many different cultural groups, and how we work together, we support one another, and we actually love one another. We don't have these major social issues that you have around the country. So to make that a top priority, I think it's almost creating a problem when there's no problem to be created. We just have to maintain that security. But as we move forward, again, it's just kind of a broken record. It's going to be our fiscal house. It's going to be what we need to do to make sure that we can maintain our sports teams. I know my opponent voted against, we did not want to raise fees on our sports teams, and she voted to do that. They're struggling, and we don't want to be raising taxes. We want to make sure our community is feeling like that we're going to be maintaining the quality of life without interjecting extra dollars when they're already out of work, many of them, and they're struggling. So the fiscal issue, and of course the safety. There's a big push across America to defund the police. I would never do that. I don't support that. It is a very ill thought out idea. I know there are pockets of problems all over the country, and I understand that. But once again, we have one of the top police departments here in the United States. So it's again maintaining safety, security, and also transportation, and making sure we don't overdevelop our city.
thank you, Shea.
Can I just counter that real quick, just for 1 minute?
You have 30 seconds. Go for
Okay,
it.
thank you. So we have not been raising taxes on anybody. And the idea on the sports issue was really pre-COVID, where our staff came back and said, in order to maintain our fields at the quality of level that we do, and we haven't raised our fees for sports and in so many years, that we wanted to increase it by $5 in order to maintain our fields. And that's what I voted for. It was not a tax increase, and it was not detrimental to anybody here in the city. And as far as the police go, I have been 100% supportive of the police. Have attended more events for them than I think anyone else has. I've been to every DARE graduation with our Irvine PD. I've been to their retirements, their promotions. I understand that after the BLM protests in Irvine, I actually met with the Black community and brought our police chief and our assistant police chief for a roundtable discussion, and we had a very good discussion on what steps we need
Thank
to
you,
take.
Farrah. Your time up.
Thank you.
All right.
I will say those fee increases were higher than that. Our residents pay double taxation. They pay their property tax and the landscape lighting fees. And our sports teams were very frustrated. And it was not the time to raise fees. I voted against it. She voted for it. So I just want
Yeah,
to make
thank you, Shea.
Taxes are different, so just clarifying, it's not tax.
Yeah, we extended this, so let's move on to the next question. So next question is about the Great Park community. So the Great Park community is like a planned well with a master plan, and all the residents just bought homes here with huge Melrose and all, just thinking that like complete master plan will be executed and they will have a totally different lifestyle that we never saw around. So, but even after 6 years, the development is still going on. The master plan is not completed yet. So this question is for Shea. Can you elaborate like what exactly is the plan, how to complete this master plan, whatever is there on a paper, can we see in reality on this ground here?
Well, it's a very good question. This has been years and years of moving forward after I worked to work against the development of an airport here in the city of Irvine. Many of us came together. It moved into the development of the Great Park. There was a 9-member board. It was that board under the leadership of Larry Agron hired multiple contractors. I had to sue the Great Park with council member Stephen Shea because they were bringing in contractors and CEOs, or one that I sued because of the CEO they're bringing in without the proper oversight. I won that in court, cost $300,000 to go to the appellate court. I had to sue my own city in Great Park because of the activities of Larry Agron, Beth Crom, and Suki Chang. So it was a debacle. We lost over $250 million. We had a balloon, and they had multiple parties all the time. So for years and years, we had a lot of plans. If you go to the city, you'll see stacks and stacks of plans that will never be implemented and never went forward because they weren't buildable. So we moved in 2012, 2013, and said, I came back to council. I said, we're going to build this park. And so consequently, we've been moving forward to create a plan. But because of the years of the oversight and mismanagement, we have had to move forward now. And we are starting to build a park. Of course, COVID's come in. There's a whole different discussion about the CFDs that was proposed by former Mayor Larry Agron. to bring in extra dollars to build the park is a very complicated discussion. At the time, I didn't agree with it because I thought we wouldn't be able to sell homes out there. I thought that Melrose basically would be like 1.9. I didn't think people would really be willing to buy their homes there. But actually, it has turned out that they are buying homes there, which is very good because it helps build a great park. But I wish we could have this separate question because just talking about that specific issue is very important to address.
Thank you, Mayor. Farrah, your
Sure.
turn.
So, what happened in the past happened before my time. So, on the council. And I know that, we faced a lot of political battles that previous council members had. So, I'm not a part of that. What I'm looking at is how we're going to move forward. And, as far as things that happened, was money misspent? Probably. I mean, it was $250 million, and that's a lot of money for not having a park developed. But at the same time, I think the political battle spent a lot of our city funds on audits and things like that that turned out to be a cost to our city. I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues so we can really work hard building that public-private partnership, building the park out, and really staying connected with our residents. Most recently, I started a committee with the Great Park neighborhood residents just to hear their concerns and what they want to see in those areas moving forward. Because it's so important to have to be able to listen to the residents and understand their needs so that when I go back to the board meetings or the council meetings, I'm there to represent their voice. And so I'm looking forward to, putting everything in the past that's happened, but building our city forward with my colleagues and looking at a vision of making the Great Park an actual great park and that neighborhood that's surrounding it, a neighborhood that people are proud of.
Thank
And
you.
if I could just take a 30-second minute to rebuttal,
Go ahead.
just to understand the steps by, I think was suggested that it was not just a misstep. They did this, but Farrakhan is running with the very man that, and supported by the team that brought this debacle to the Great Park. That's very troubling because he has history of misusing money in our city. And the audit that was $1.2 million was very justifiable. The residents can go online at the city of Irvine and you will see deposition after deposition of consultants that have said why that was a debacle there. So I agree that the past may not have to be dealt with, but you can't move forward if you forget the past. History is very important.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
I just want to clarify, I'm not running with anyone. I'm running independently. We are endorsed by similar parties, and that does not mean that I'm teaming up with anyone. I
Of
won.
course you are. You're on her mail. You're on the mailers. All his mailers.
Okay, we're not okay.
Sorry.
We're not open discussion. Yeah, let's move on to next question. Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Next question is related to the Great Park and Irvine. This question goes to Shea. Shea, you have specifically called out supporting initiatives for the veteran community with a lot of focus on Orange County Veteran Cemetery Initiative and its location in Irvine and in Great Park. Mayor Shea, can you elaborate your perspective on this one? How this one should happen?
And we're talking about the cemetery, the veteran cemetery.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I've been working on this since 2014. I proposed the Strawberry Field site, work with 5 points in our veterans, and that was overturned by Larry Agran. He gave a lot of misinformation to the voters, and that was basically overturned at the ballot box. Then I went back to the drawing board and I said, let's find some property in the Great Park that they were arguing they wanted property in the Great Park. I brought forward the golf course site. Now because I only have 2 minutes, there's the artist site that has been approved, but the zoning is not even effective based on its city property. They went out and got 14,000 signatures. The problem is that in 2019, June of 2019, the state of California, by law, designated the artist site and the golf course site need to be reviewed, and CalVet will come in and make that determination this coming May. So this whole idea of going out to keep pushing this artist site is going to be actually overridden by the state of California and CalVet. So it's just been a really another, in my opinion, misinformation harming our veterans. And I support the golf course site 100%. We believe that we've had internal Financial reviews is $40 million less to build than the artist site that has huge impediments, buildings all over, environmental problems. So for the benefit of our residents and our veterans, we need to be moving forward with the cemetery at the golf course. But we are now at a point that we can't do anything until CalVet comes up with their final report in May 2021.
Thank you, Shea. For do you agree, and what is your opinion on this one?
Sure. I think, at the end of the day, our veterans have really been at the bottom of the barrel when it came to the veteran cemetery. Again, it's been a political battle this way or that way. And I remember when I first came on and we were discussing this, I really tried to compromise as much as possible to find a solution. A lot of people were wanting it at the artist site, but I also knew that the residents nearby didn't want a cemetery across the street. And so I said, instead of the 125 acres or 150 acres that are there, I would recommend reducing that size so that we have a buffer between the residents and the cemetery, and I would be okay with that. But nobody supported that. The second option was a golf course, and then I voted for the golf course because, again, we wanted to move the cemetery forward. And we found out that the initiative started, people started signing those papers. They wanted the cemetery at the ARDA, but we had residents that wanted it at the golf course. And right now, where we are is that the state is going to review both sides for feasibility studies. That means they're going to look at the ARDA site, they're going to look at the golf course site, and decide themselves which one is more feasible to move forward on. And at that point, it's going to be our job as leaders to stick with that in order to move it forward. But I just want to make one thing clear that no matter where it goes, whether it goes on the ARDA or whether it goes on the golf course, it'll be our job to make sure that we are protecting our residents that have cultural differences and really do not want a cemetery near their homes, that we take care of that cultural sensitivity and work towards building a cemetery at the same time taking care of our residents.
And if I could just rebut that, because
30 seconds.
when this came before us after all the 14,000 signatures had been approved, we had approved the golf course site. We had rezoned the artist site for parkland and a small retail site that Larry Agron approved in 2009 to make 6.6 million square foot of development. I never did that. He says I do on the mailers at Farrah. She is running with him. You can all see that. Integrity matters. And so consequently, I wanted it built at the golf course site to protect the residents from the intrusion of having a cemetery that they were uncomfortable with right across the street. Farrah and my other council members voted to approve the artist site across the street from neighbors just recently, and that is the facts about
Thank you.
My council colleagues, all four of us, besides Mayor Shea, voted that way because we didn't want our communities fighting anymore. We wanted to end the fight and move forward. And
Yeah,
that's
thank you,
exactly
Farrah.
what we need.
Yeah, thank you for your response. That's a good explanation about this. And so I have my partner Mahesh will be taking up a few questions about the financial environmental issues of Irvine. Mahesh, can you please go
Yeah,
ahead and
thanks, Kishore.
thank you.
This question is about environment. So much development is happening in Irvine, and now we need to think about environment control, right? So this question is for Farrah. This question is for Councilmember Khan. So how would you like to address the situation when it comes to traffic, or when it comes to pollution, or health and safety of the Irvine residents?
Okay, that's a loaded question, so I'll try to break it down as much as I can. On the environment side, I actually initiated a climate action plan that we have now that we're going to be working on, and staff has been developing reports to help reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, make sure that our air is clean, that our water is clean, that we're converting towards renewable energy. So that is a very expansive, it's a very thorough plan that's going to take care of a lot of our environmental issues as we move forward. It's going to set goals for the city to achieve. And so that's very important for us to have in place and move forward on. The second, you talked about transportation. So transportation is critical in our city because we don't have a robust public transportation opportunity. And right before COVID hit, I was working with our staff and we actually got a grant to do a pilot program. And And this was really to look at a small shuttle or trolley of some sort that would go from neighborhood to destination areas like the marketplace, the Spectrum, UCI, Diamond Jamboree, making sure that we were working with our chamber to incentivize people getting out of their cars and into the shuttle to go to those destination areas. And so there's a lot of opportunity for us to move forward to help reduce a lot of the congestion and things that go along with the traffic that we're facing right now. And another thing is, workforce housing is something that I've been working on for a long time. And that's really making sure that as we invite new businesses and corporations into our city, that we're providing housing for their employees. Our city's population doubles during business hours because of commute traffic. And so we want to make sure, in order to reduce that traffic, that we actually have people that can live in Irvine, that work in Irvine, because with that, we can provide them services through our ICE shuttle program, which we increased 2 routes in 2019, getting people from their homes to their jobs within Irvine. And so there's a lot of opportunity for us to work on these issues as we move forward.
Uh, th- Thanks, Councilmember Khan. So, Mr. Shea, how would you like to explain the question? How would you like to consider? I know you have a, transportation commission in Grand and also implementing some part of the commission. How would you like to address this question?
So I'm answering the same question about the environment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so yeah, let me just share. Experience and history has a lot to do with who we're going to vote for mayor. So understanding that I do have a history of promoting protection for our community with our non-toxic pesticide program. I'm a cancer survivor, and I've always been very sensitive to the issue of our environment. Can we solve the entire climate issue locally? No, because you have to have so many other communities and countries participating. Otherwise, it really is never going to be that successful. But one point, I want to maintain and continue our non-toxic pesticide program. Also, understanding with COVID, though it's been so negative, there's been positive things we've learned. And one is telecommunication. On our council on Tuesday, I'm bringing forward a suggestion that we would approve our staff moving forward, our business community moving forward, that we maintain a minimum of 25% of our workers staying at home. It keeps the cars off the street. It makes the air quality so much better. And we've all noticed that. So I think maintaining this remote working and telecommunication is very, very important for us. And it's a very important learning lesson that we have learned out of this very negative COVID-19. The iShuttle is something I brought forward in the city of Irvine with my council members years ago. We already have an iShuttle program that is now overseen by OCTA. And that OCTA program does have shuttles that go all over the city. We need to make them a little bit more integrated into the residential community. But we found over time, many people just want to use their cars. They really are not in Orange County and Irvine, especially. They're just not integrated in thinking to get into a shuttle. But we really have been promoting it and supporting it through the OCTA program. And then one other thing, I believe I've worked very diligently of promoting development, but balanced development. I voted over the last couple of years opposing several, if not multiple, development projects to ensure
Thanks, Mahesh.
balance and we protect our air quality.
Thanks, Mahesh.
I would just like to make one clarification point. The iShuttle program was actually brought forward by Mayor Suki King, who state grants. He's the one that championed the iShuttle program.
Well, we worked together as a council, yes, and I supported it, of course.
Thank you both. Thank you both. Okay, the next question is also for Farrah, Councilmember Khan. The next question is about safety in Irvine. So Irvine is known for being one of the safest cities in the country. Part of the requirement is ensuring we have the support of our frontline services, right? So yet there is a demand currently for defunding the police force. So what is your thought process on that? What is your strategy to balance the need for safety in the current crisis and maintaining the force to the required level to maintain the safety, continue the safety?
Absolutely. So, one thing I want to clarify is a lot of people don't understand what defund the police actually means. It doesn't mean taking funds away from the police department. It's really redirecting some funds to add additional resources. And so for us in our city, we're not LA, we're not Chicago, we're Irvine. And we know that we haven't had an officer involved shooting since 2013. And we know that, right, recently we had our police chief go over all the policies of our police department. And there was an 8 can't wait policy requirement that was going around. And our city actually meets 7.5 out of those 8 policy requirements. So we're like the pinnacle when it comes to policies that the police has, as far as being in partnership with the community, working in partnership with the community. We're one of the only departments, the police departments, that continues the DARE program for our 6th graders. A lot of cities in Orange County have actually closed those programs. And I've been a major fan of that. My kids have gone through the DARE program, and it's an amazing thing that we do for our community members. So there is no need for us to do any of that. But in speaking with our police chief and our police officers, they are asking for a little more help when they go on calls for mental health, or they go on calls that require additional support, such as social workers or someone with expertise. Even though we've got a PhD in mental health illness on our police force, they still need that additional support. So of course, we're going to help them get to where they need to be. And most recently, we actually increased their budget so they could have body cams for their officers. So again, it's all about working together. What's happening outside of Irvine shouldn't affect us here. We have to focus on what our city's needs are and where we need to go. And that happens when we communicate well with everyone.
Thanks, Councilmember Khan. So, Mr. Shea, so how would you like to, how did you handle the safety concerns or safety of the A1 people? And what are you planning, what are your future plans to continue some of your strategies, or do you have any other strategies to continue the safety measures in A1?
Well, thank you so much for that question. Let me say that I have been endorsed by the Irvine Police Department. I've been endorsed by the Orange County Fire Department, and they've endorsed me as mayor because they know and trust that I'm going to maintain the security and safety of our city. I do not believe in defunding. The defunding police, if you look around the country, it's way more than just reallocating money. Many cities are actually dismantling police departments. They're not protecting. Look at New York. The mayor of New York is not even defending or protecting his police force. You see this in Seattle. You see it in Portland. Protecting our police is the number one thing we need to do because people buy homes here. They move their families here. They educate their children here. And the last thing they want to see is us allowing these violent protesters to come into our city, to come into our residential areas, to come into our businesses and burning down our city. And I have stood firmly against that. My opponent called me a racist because of a video I did. Yes, you did. Standing up, I have the video, standing up for our police department and the credibility of our city police department. This is why our fire and our police support me. For the past many years, I worked with our police department. We created a community policing program, which is really an example throughout the United States. I even heard President Biden talk about more cities should be doing that. Community policing is a wonderful way for the residents to get to know the police. They know their territory, and it creates peace and unity. Also, I've worked on bringing forward a mental health department, a component within the police department. I also brought forward our human trafficking division, which was about 3 to 4 years ago in our police department. We used to have birthing houses here in Irvine. They are no longer existing. I have been very proactive to defend, protect our city, and I will remain in that position as I become mayor for the next 2 years.
And I just want to rebut that a little bit. It's unfortunate that we are taking things that are happening in larger cities that do have trouble from the national conversation and bringing it down here locally. We really need to have leadership that is going to listen to the concerns. And as our police department have stated over and over again, all of the protests that we had in our city were all peaceful and without incident. And so we need to let people voice their concerns and react to them in the same manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Khan. So the next question is about the economical situation during the current times. as well as overall plan for the city. This question is for Mayor Shea. Mayor Shea, what were your plans so far? How are you able to implement your economic plan or budget plan implement in the city so far? And what are your thoughts going forward? And considering the employment situation, the small business enablement, and also upbringing the infrastructure in the city. So can you share a little bit about that?
Okay, so it's kind of a multi-level question. You're talking about infrastructure in the city. Did I hear that correctly?
Overall economical plan. So how would you like to, we have a deficit budget, right, as you mentioned. So considering that, how would you like to have an available budget, make it available for the equally taking care of small business enablement, bringing up the jobs back, and then infrastructure upbringing?
Okay, so a lot of the discussion about the small business, I think we've already gone over, but let me talk about the budget focus. I've been on the council for many years. I think even being a mother and a homemaker, learning how to maintain a budget is very important. The one thing I brought to the table to the city of Irvine for many years is the balanced approach to economic necessities and those that aren't so needful. And so it's really looking at our budget and making sure that we prioritize our spending. Many cities don't do that. You'll go around the country and there's a city here in Orange County, I won't mention it, that you'll look at the roads and they're just falling apart because I don't believe that the council is really looking how to make sure they maintain the core function of what a city's supposed to do. And that's to make sure our trash is picked up, we have good lighting, we take care of our parks, our roads are repaired. And if you look at our city, we do not have these issues because it's about years and years of proper planning our budgets. We do pay almost 40% of our budget for our police department. There's a reason for that. This is why we've been named the best city to live in, a safe community, and all the other accolades we have, because we spend 40% of our budget to maintain high level, high educated police in our city. 15 years in a row, we've been honored with that. We have one of the best park systems. We have one of the best places for women. We have accolades as the best place to live in America, and it doesn't come by happenstance. It comes by good planning. It comes by people that understand how to balance a budget and not have so many outside creative ideas that are going nowhere and that could backfire and harm us financially. We have to be very conservative. So I would say that I've approached our budget in a very conservative and a very well thought out way. Infrastructure in our city, the maintaining of our roads, we do a great job because we have a budget plan and our finance commission helps support that, that we make sure we set aside reserves so that we are maintaining in a pattern over the city how to keep our roads and the infrastructure, our lights working. So I'm very proud of what I've done over the course, and other council members with me, to make sure that we maintain
Thank you, Mayor Shea.
that has a strong budget. So
Thank you, Mayor Shea. And Councilmember Khan, coming back to you, this is your turn to understand or go over the same question. So what are you thinking about the plan that is happening in Irvine City, and how would you like to take it forward?
I think I agree. Since many years, and different council members, different mayors, one of the priorities for all of us has been to have a balanced budget. And we've done an amazing job at that. And that's something that we hope to continue doing. Because if you look around at other Orange County cities, they're not in the same financial stability that we are right now. We also have a reserve fund with $50 million. And so that is a fund that is paid by taxpaying dollars that we hold on to for a rainy day, for an emergency, where we can help ourselves or in our city out should we need it. And so, you know what, these are the type of things we want to continue doing. And I think my colleagues and I and people that have been on the council prior to me have done a great job at, and we need to continue doing it. And again, we have commissions in place. So we have a finance commission, we have a transportation commission, a planning commission, and a community services commission. And these people are dedicated to making sure that our parks and open spaces are of quality. They're making sure that we are managing our finances properly. They're making sure that our streets and our building and development is in line with our master plan. And so as we're moving forward, there's a lot of things, policies and ordinances that are set in place that really help guide us to where we need to be. And that's something that I'm committed to moving forward, is that quality of life should not be deterred in any way as we move forward, because that's really the reason why people move here. That's the reason I moved here, that my kids went to our public schools here, and that's the many reasons that a lot of other people are here as well. So that's going to be a top priority as we move forward.
And I would like to just have a 30-second response just for clarity. I just wanted to let the residents know we have an asset management plan that we put together years and years ago. We have a $60 million reserve in that plan. We also have a $25 million reserve with our budget. And we have been named one of the top cities for sound fiscal management over the last 2 to 3 years. It is something I think all of the council members are very proud of. I do have to say though, and due respect to my council member, she recently asked to have us spend $5 million of our reserves to give free rent to UCI students and renters. It's on the record, and we can't be doing, yes, you voted for that, so don't say you didn't. In fact, the problem with that is you can't be giving people free rent money during a COVID-19 when we have huge deficit budgets. So just from a lack of experience is something that we would never and should never.
Thank you, Miss.
So I'm going
Thank
to
you,
comment
Mayor Shea.
very
Thank you.
quickly, and I want people to go back and watch the council meeting. The meeting was not free rent for students. It was us providing rent relief for our residents, which included our students. And that was coming from the CARES Act fund. The
No, it
CARES
wasn't.
Act
It
was not in our hands at the time.
Uh, I think time is up. Time is up.
Okay, but I want people to watch that meeting, but what she's saying is incorrect and it's not true.
it is true.
It's not.
Thank you, Councilmember Khan. Thank you for that. So next questions, next two, three questions are about propositions. The the first one is Prop 16. So it's a constitutional amendment that would repeal Proposition 209 passed in 96 from the California Constitution, right? So that it stated that discrimination and preferential treatment were prohibited in public employment, education, and contracting on account of a person's group, race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin. So therefore, Proposition 209 banned the use of affirmative action involving race-based or sex-based preferences in California, especially. So, so this question is for Councilmember Khan. So, what is your stand on Prop 16? Are you in favor of Prop 16 or not in favor of 16? What is your stand?
You know, it's a mixed feeling because I understand the concerns from the public when it comes to the educational component of it. But at the same time, I also understand that the business component of it is going to be beneficial for minorities as well. When we're talking about, you know, contracts with the government and things like that, we want to provide extra leverage for our minorities so they're able to get those contracts and expand their businesses in our state. So it's a flawed, I think, proposition where it kind of helps one side on one side and maybe doesn't help. But you know, I went to college during the time when you know, what was it? The affirmative action was in place, and I got into UC Berkeley and UC Davis. I ended up going to Davis because it was a little further from home, and I wanted a little freedom. But you know, I think there's many ways that we can help each other out when it comes to making sure that our minorities that aren't getting into colleges, especially the Black community, get that extra help that they need. But I'm going to leave it up to the voters because really it's up to the voters to decide which way they want to go. And whichever way we decide to go, we then need to figure out how we're going to move forward and help each other out as we go forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Khan. And we turn to Mayor Shea. Mayor Shea, what is your stand on the same?
Well, thank you very much. I oppose Prop 16. Most of our residents that I've been meeting with and talking to oppose it. It really would overturn Prop 209 that was adopted by a large majority of people in the state of California. It's a constitutional change they're trying to make that 209 actually creates equality with all different you know, venues dealing with public hiring in college and so on. So I think overturning that constitutional initiative that was approved in 1996 is really a bad idea. going backwards is not a good idea. I believe a lot of the state legislatures are just reacting to some of this BLM, aggression, and I understand some of it. Some of it I don't support, but I don't think you just overreact and react so quickly to something that was proposed and adopted by our citizens of the state of California that really does create equality. And it's really about maintaining equality. And I support maintaining 209, and I'm in complete opposition to Prop 16.
Can
Thank
you
you,
just
Mahesh.
clarify, Prop 16 came to be prior to any of the BLM protests?
Thank you both. Next question is about Prop 19. So that is also part of this 2020 state proposition now. So also, this is question to Council Member Khan. So this, Prop 19 about it, eligible homeowners can transfer their tax assessment to a different home in the same or lesser market value, which allows them to move without paying higher taxes, right? So also this prop in California, parents or grandparents can transfer primary residential properties to their children or grandchildren without the property tax assessment resetting to market value, right? So other types of properties such as vacation homes and business properties can also be transferred, right? From parents to child or grandchild. Um, so what is your stand on Prop 19?
So I'm in favor of making sure that people, when they invest in their homes and properties, that they're able to pass it on to their family members and build that equity. They need to have that opportunity to do so.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Khan. Mayor Shea, what is your stand on this Prop 19, Prop 15, sorry?
Well, it's a difficult initiative, but from my perspective, I think the present law should be in place. I would say I would oppose it, only from the standpoint, I think we have protections for those that sell their homes, our seniors and others, and to now implement more aggression. I believe that when we give benefit to people, someone's going to pay that differential. Someone has to do that. And under this COVID-19, and everyone, not everyone, but so many people are out of work. They're under financial depression. This is not the time to be changing laws that give more benefit to others, an additional benefit. I do support the present law that does give benefit to our seniors and others when they sell their home. I think it's reasonable. It makes sense, and I support that. But to add more burden to taxpayers and others would have to cover that additional amount by this new proposal, I would have to say I think we need to vote no on Prop 19.
Thank you, Mayor Shea. Next question is about Prop 22. So that is providing app-based transportation and delivery companies to enhance their employee benefits to certain drivers. So this question is for Mayor Shea. What is your stand on Prop 22?
Well, I believe that we need to protect these independent contractors. I don't think that they should be under a burden to be paying more taxes when they really don't make that much in Lyft and some of these other programs that they're participating in. So, of course, I would say that I think that we need to save their app-based jobs and making sure that they feel like they can participate in a way that they're not over financially burdened or pushed out of the market, because we need to encourage these different independent contractors. So it would be a yes on 22.
Okay. And Councilmember Khan, oh, thank you, Mayor Shea. Councilmember Khan, what is your stand on the same proposition 22?
It's a yes. After speaking to so many people that work with Lyft and Uber, and they enjoy their freedom to work as at will, and the bigger problem isn't enforcing the companies to provide healthcare. It's really an overhaul of our own healthcare programs. So we need to let them work as independent contractors. I think that's crucial.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Khan. Kishore, you can take over.
You're muted. Sorry.
Mute.
Yeah, thank you, Mahesh. That was really intensive area where you discussed. And I would like to go some root level questions. What we are facing in a day-to-day life. So currently, because of the COVID, our community and the educational system has taken a hit with the COVID shutdown. So what is your plan to get the educational and school programs back on track? I know like city do have some limited control over the independent body of a school district and the funding wise. And do you have any suggestions to the school district, like how it should reopen? I know it's already open and going like mixed and online. So do you have any thoughts, like creative, innovative thoughts? Because this is going to be a long term. So please share your thoughts, like how you're going to suggest to school district for a long-term goal.
Well, I appreciate, oh, are you talking to me? Is
Yeah,
that?
the question is to share.
Well, that's a very interesting question. Number one, we do have separate agencies. UCI is an island by itself. We have no control, no direction, or ability to tell them how to build their homes or whatever that they're building for their professors. We actually have almost no control with UCI. When it comes to IUSD, they're completely separate district, like our water district. We do have a liaison committee that I've served on, and I believe Farrah serves on now with our school board members. But it gets a little difficult to direct too much to a separate agency because I think people bristle at times. But I do believe that we have always worked well with our separate educational agencies, and we need to support them, and the city does. We give over $11 million a year. We started this, what, 4 to 5 years ago. So I do believe that we do whatever we can to support not only IPSF, but our school district. But when it comes to policy and direction, we really are very limited in what we can do. We do have communications with them, but I think ultimately this is up to the school district to make these decisions because they're directly funded through the state of California. I have my own personal views on some of this. I'm a little concerned about schools opening part-time and not part-time. I think parents are very frustrated. I'm worried about the COVID-19 and how that might be starting to spread. We've had a couple schools that have had cases arise just once they started opening. I don't know if it was too early to open. I think my personal feeling would probably be wait till January, start getting through this flu season and see how we're going. But I 100% support our district. I want to make sure they're successful because they do a wonderful job to educate our students. So I think we have a very good collaborative relationship with them. But as far as our influence, I would say it's more of on a personal basis more than anything else.
Thank you, Shea. The same question goes to Farrah. Like, do you have your opinion and suggestion to school district, like how they should be operating to cope up with this crisis?
Right, and I do sit on the liaison committee between the city and the school board, and we have been communicating, and even outside the meetings, I've been communicating with our school board members because I do have a child in our Irvine Public Schools right now, and so it's very important for us to stay in touch and see what's going on. We don't have much say as far as what they can do and cannot do, but we're there as a guiding light. So we're there to communicate the concerns of our residents, and I've been keeping in touch with so many of our PTA parents, and that have been, just putting in suggestions and concerns that I'm going to be taking back with me to our board members. I've actually held during this pandemic, I've held two town halls with two of our school board members, just to give updates on what the school is planning on doing, making sure the parents are informed. And, as we move forward, we definitely want them to take more careful steps because these are our kids that are going to be out and about, and we want their safety to be of highest concern. And so whenever there are concerns or suggestions from the community, we definitely want to hear them so that we can bring them forward. But I recommend people reaching out to your school board member directly with concerns. They're very accessible. Their emails are on their website. And so please reach out to them and have that conversation with them if you have any concerns with the way the schools are operating right now or any changes you'd like to see. That's your opportunity to voice your concern.
Thank you, Farrah. Um, and the next question regarding the diversity in Irvine and to protect its culture. See, Irvine is privileged to have a diversified culture with the different nations and different languages, especially when they come from a different countries, they bring a different culture as well. And it could be like a performing arts or it could be a sports like cricket. So city is really privileged to have this type of culture like no other city is having it. So what is the city plans to protect this culture and sports and to promote this? Is there any plan to build an infrastructure to protect and promote this? Specific to the performing arts from the different areas like Indian, Chinese, or different, they have their own culture. So, what is your plan to build an infrastructure specific to promote and support this?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I think we all, I would say all of our council members through the history of this city have been very proactive to support the diversity as it's grown. As we've added on new sister city programs and a lot of the destination Irvine trips I've taken to promote our relationships with Japan and Korea and Taiwan and also Hermosillo, this has brought a lot of different cultures to our city with a lot of destination Irvine and cultural building that we have done over the many, many years. So one thing I am looking at, and I've talked to many of our groups, I would like, and I've talked to this, brought this up over the many years at the Great Park, I would like to bring forward a cultural center at the Great Park, find property, the right amount of acreage, and have a very well designed and structured cultural center so that our different diverse communities can lease out, rooms and large spaces so that they can enjoy their different events and their cultural activities, their religious events. I think we're lacking that in the city, and I'm very much supportive of that. And I've been talking about bringing that forward. And also this issue of cricket. I really didn't know a whole lot about cricket because I'm so much from America into baseball and whatnot. So I walked over to the Great Park I'm sorry, to my park right here in Quail Hill, and I saw residents playing cricket about 3 months ago, and I had gotten a call. We would like to have cricket at the Great Park, and I thought it looked kind of like a different kind of game that I was not used to. But I thought, this looks really cool, and so I've been talking to residents about maybe we can reconfigure some of our soccer fields and turn them into cricket fields. We need to find ways to integrate and accept cultural differences and make people feel a part of our city, that they want to stay here. They feel a part of the family of the city of Irvine. And so I'm always looking to find different ways to promote the interest of our residents. So I think a cultural center and also looking at some of the different sports games that we're not really maybe used to here in Southern California, but I think would be very important to bring forward cricket and some other wonderful activities at the Great Park.
Thank you very much, Shea. And to reiterate the response, like Shea is for building infrastructure to promote and support the cultural activities as well as the sports that we have. So the same question goes to Farrah. So what is your thought process on this one?
Absolutely. So, we had the Irvine Global Village Festival, which is amazing. Not only that, but I sit on the board of the Irvine Barclay Theater. And for the past 2 years, I've made sure that we've opened those doors up to so many of our cultural groups so they have access to such a great venue for their events. And not only that, but I served on the Irvine Chambers International Trade Week, where we talk a lot about international trade from different countries into Irvine. And beyond that, the Cultural and Trade Center is an opportunity that we had. And I actually went to Los Angeles with our city manager's team last year to talk to a lot of the consulates that are out there about building this cultural and trade center. It's not just a center for the cultures to come, and it's a performing arts center. It has different rooms for the different consulates to hold office hours. We want to make sure that people understand what a diverse community we are. And so if they want to go for tourism, they want to go for trade, that those people would be there, at different office times to provide that information and really expand our horizons even more. That was slated to be put into the cultural terrace area. And I understand that right now, because of the Navy wells that are there, we don't have access to the cultural terrace. But that is something that I'm definitely looking forward to moving forward on. Our staff have already developed plans for that center. So it's an exciting time for us to move forward and make sure that we are providing more space for our cultural community to not only display their arts and music and dance, but also to encourage tourism and trade. At the same time, when it comes to cricket, I think a lot of you may know that I've been to just about every cricket league that's been around and in Irvine. in Orange County as well. And again, with our former city manager, we developed a team committee that is currently working with the USA Cricket Association. And right now, we just had a meeting last week where we have designated 2 spaces for pitches throughout the city. That'll be official pitches for practice and games. And we're working with the USA Cricket Association to look at possibly building, a stadium of some sort because they are trying really hard to bring cricket into the Olympics, and hopefully we can be one of those folks that are hosting it here in Irvine. So a
Yeah,
lot of good
thank
stuff
you.
coming out of these
Thank
discussions.
you, Farrah. Okay, the next question is again to Farah, since you said like you have plans to build a stadium or something. So what we heard, like these discussions have been in a place like for a long time, and it's going like to and fro, like, okay, we're gonna build a stadium, and then it's not gonna happen. So is it really practical? Do you have enough budget for this one to build a proper stadium where it can be played properly, cricket as cricket, not just a cricket, like all these infrastructures that we're talking about? Is city is planning to allocate some budget for this one?
Yes. So we actually
You have
allocated.
1 minute for this one.
Sure. And so what we did through the committee is we didn't have funding enough for a stadium. So we designated 2 pitches throughout the city designated for cricket. But now the USA Cricket Association has come in and they actually have funding. So we're having those communications on how much funding are they bringing in through their association. And if they're able to bring the funding in, then we definitely want to build that public-private partnership. And, we've spoken with 5 Points at the Great Park area to see if they would like to participate and they're interested. So I think this time, I mean, the pitches are going to happen no matter what. But with the stadium, I think we finally have the funding that we were waiting on. And I hope that we can move forward on it as well.
Okay, thank you, Farah. And Shia, like you being in office, like like in and outs, like how the budget and all. So whatever Farah is saying, like, do you see it's a practical and it can be implemented, all this stuff?
Yes, I think having the opportunity to move forward on some of these very important initiatives that the public wants, it is about our budget. We do have a CFD that we talked about from the residents are paying a little bit extra around their homes for the Great Park. That has become basically the funding source beside the 250 that Lennar, and then we lost that, and then they brought in a new 250 million that we've been able to use. But it really will be about some of these specialty sites will be about private partnerships, public-private partnerships. And so I'm open to be as creative as we can at the Great Park. We need to represent the public and the needs that they have. So it's all integrated well, it's well planned out. We have a water polo site coming in. We have our DEX facility now, which is fantastic. We have approved our sand volleyball, which will be Olympic volleyball courts at the Great Park. Is going to be slowed down a bit because of COVID, but we're hoping that's going to get back up. We have approved an amphitheater. We want a permanent amphitheater at the Great Park. We also have Wild Rivers coming in, which is great because when they closed over here at the Irvine Company site, it was very sad. Many people were just devastated because they loved Wild Rivers, their kids do. And now a lot of the children were children then are adults and they have children. So we're moving forward with that plan as well. So there's a lot of activity, a lot of plans. We just have to make sure we can get through some of this COVID-19 and our partnerships start becoming more invigorated. And we will certainly be doing what we need to do to make sure we have a balance of use. Plus cultural uses we really want to look at. So I'm very open to looking at any kind of separate stadium we may want to have for cricket and other uses. So I agree with Farrah in regard to that. I think we're all very much in sync about making sure we provide the best sports and cultural terrace development and museums that we could bring forward to the residents of Irvine.
Thank you, Mayor Shia. So it looks like either one of you elected or re-elected to this position, there will be like a rich cultural infrastructure and make the Irvine is a better place on the map. So that's really interesting to know. The next question, something related to the public involvement in the policy making. So when the policymakers make the policy, the end consumer is a public. So unlike these type of debates like only happening during the election time come to public and interact with them, so is there any way to make the general public, the residents of Irvine, involved in the decision-making process, like periodically, like organizing a roundtable meetings or maybe some sort of a seminars, and gather the information from them, like understand their needs, more interaction with the audience, and and make residents involved in the process of a decision-making. Take their opinions. Yes, that's what they need. So, do you have any plans to implement in such a process, an decision-making process? The
Are you
question goes to
relating
Shea.
this to the Great Park, or are you relating this to the city overall?
It's for the overall city of Irvine in any decision-making process where they can contribute their ideas to make a better law.
Well, let me just suggest that the cities around Orange County, around the United States, there is processes in place for public participation. We have commissions. We have multiple commission meetings. This past year and a half, I worked with our police department, our city staff. We had probably 10 to 12 outreach meetings for our public. We had 6 or 7 people show up. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of money for our staff to take their evenings and we advertise them. We talk about development. We were talking about public safety. We had some very wonderful, I think, topics. The problem is that the residents they're very busy. They have their children, they have work. So when we try to do these outreach programs, they're not very well attended. And I will tell you, this past year and a half, we had multiple outreach programs, not only on the weekends, but after dinner. And I probably attended most of them, and we had very little turnout because people are just busy. But we do have commissions. We do have the opportunity once the city hall opens up for people to come and participate, to talk to council members. We have our office hour meetings. I meet with residents all the time. So yes, we can also, and I have my mayor's council. I meet with a multiple residents in Irvine to talk about what needs are. One of my meetings, we brought forward this whole concept of expanding our electric vehicle stands in the Great Park and around the city, and that's moving forward. So I'm very open to public participation, and there are multiple ways for the public to be able to participate. The one thing that has been brought forward about the Great Park, many of the residents have talked about that they want to be an advisory committee to direct or help oversee the development of the Great Park. We had a measure that went out to the voters that basically said no. It was going to be decided and run, I believe it was Measure V, that only the Great Park Board of Directors would make final decisions. It doesn't mean that they can't participate, but there was never an understanding that we would have a side advisory committee for that opportunity, and that was actually voted down by the voters. So, but I do believe we have multiple ways for the public to get involved. We certainly can be more interactive on our website to encourage that. I have been doing WebExes and outreach programs and going to events. So we really do try as a city, probably more than most cities. But I would say that it's just hard when we spend so much time and we don't get the participation that we would hope for on some of these outreach with our staff and our public safety department.
Yeah, thank you, Shea. And the
Sure.
same question goes to Farrah, like how do you make, if you're reelected, like how do you make the process, like making the people more involved into the decision-making process?
Absolutely. And like Mayor Shea said, our city tries to reach out to the community as much as possible, whether it's through open forums. We do a lot of online surveys as well before we take on a project to get input from the community. But again, it takes the part of the community to respond to those surveys and show up at those meetings. But at the same time, there are ways that I have worked with the community to make things a little bit more open. And since the pandemic hit, what I've done is every Monday prior to a council meeting, I actually get on Facebook Live and go through the entire agenda and have people join in and ask questions and share their concerns so that I kind of have an idea where they're coming at as we're voting on certain items. And we've been doing that continuously every Monday before the council meeting. Not only that, but holding town halls on topics that the community is interested in. I did one recently, not just only on the propositions, giving them an overview, not picking sides, but providing them the pros and cons of each proposition in an unbiased manner, making sure that we brought in mental health experts to talk about how this COVID crisis is affecting all of our families, including our kids. And so I think that open communication process is crucial. We have to try different avenues, whether it's in person through town halls, whether it's through online surveys, or whether it's these casual Facebook Live events. the multiple ways that we can open our doors, the better it is for our community members to respond. And right now, members are welcome to put in public comments on any agenda item or even something that is not on the agenda through e-comments, through emails. And so we want to make sure that the community understands that there are multiple avenues for them to get in touch.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Khan. I have one important question. So we do have 9 more minutes to end this forum today. But I want to ask both of you one important question to end with. Um, it could be the last one, but not the least one. This question is for Council Member Khan. Being contesting for this position for the first time, so what were your top 2 to 3 initiatives and programs that you think serve as a good contestant to build credibility for the city voters to select you as a next mayor?
I think, one of the most important things that people look for in leadership is integrity, honesty, and an opportunity to serve the public's needs. And for me, that has been the reason that I first ran for office. And during my time on the council, it's been about, I put party aside, and people know that according to my votes, I don't vote on based on party. I vote based on what's best for our residents and our businesses in the city. I've always been very vocal about what is important. And as we move forward, we want to make sure that we are in touch with the community's needs. And overall, yes, we're a fantastic city. We're the safest city. We're one of the most, welcoming cities throughout the world. However, if there are people out there that are facing any sort of injustice, if they're facing any sort of hate incidents. And we've seen that. We've had several that reported from the Asian community of the way they were treated. Those are the issues that we need to work on. It's all about building those bridges, bringing our communities together and filling those gaps. No matter how good we are, we're always going to have some room to improve. And we want to make sure that we are making those improvements so that everyone feels equally welcomed, equally safe, and equally able to thrive in our city. And so I think that's the type of leadership that I would like to see in the city, and I hope others too. And as we move forward, it's so important that we have leadership that understands, that listens, and that is not there to fight or divide. And for me, it's always been about bringing people together. My work background from the biotech industry to a small business owner, and most recently on the Interfaith Council, working with so many different faith communities, highlighting the issues that they were facing and making sure everyone had a voice is crucial as we move forward and make our city even better than it is today.
Thank you, Councilmember Khan. Um, let's turn to Mayor Shea. Mayor Shea, you've been in the seat for a few years now. So what would you think about any initiatives, that programs that worked for you? And how would you plan the future in a different way or the same way that continuing the position, how would you take it going forward? And
No,
what's the credibility that you can share with the team to choose you again to support the city voters to select as the next mayor?
well, I kind of think that we discussed this earlier about our proactive thinking about where we wanted to go. Is that something that you're suggesting again? Because I do think as a leader, it is important to have that integrity, the honesty, and the experience. We need someone with experience. We have some very new council members that are serving on our council right now. And I have just seen some decisions and some activity that would really bring into question just the need to have a little bit more experience in office. It is very important. You learn from experience. History means a lot when you're running a city of our size. We're not a small little city of 50,000 people. We're a city of 300,000. We're a major city, and we have to have leadership that has experience and integrity. And of course, if you look at people that individuals that others are running with on tickets or on um, uh, again, on political tickets, you're going to see certain differentiations between those and who they're running with and their history, which some of these people are very troubling, and the history of maybe those that are wanting to run alone and bring an independent thought to bear. And that is very, very important in our city. We just really can't be going back to the past. We can't be bringing back these old policies and ideas that were very destructive to the city. I don't work with individuals that I feel have a history that has been detrimental to the city of Irvine. I think we need to make sure that we do support and stand with leaders that do show, and not only show, but it give the experience of being honest and have that integrity that we need. The city of Irvine is an outstanding community, but it takes a lot of experience. It takes a lot of understanding, and it can't just be a new idea, bringing in new people, and all of a sudden things are going to change. I do agree with the fact that and we've talked with our wonderful, outstanding police department. Anyone in our city, if they feel disenfranchised, if they feel that they're having any kind of issue based on race or any kind of profiling, we address it immediately. We are very careful to make sure that we protect our residents. I've had multiple calls over the last years, and people call me, and I immediately have meetings with our police department. So we curtail any kind of sense that we do not support proper social justice. So I believe that it hasn't really been an issue in our city. There are issues, there are incidents, this has happened, but I also know that we cannot make this a big, wide new discussion because it really isn't that something that is that outstanding or a biggest concern as some people are.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both for great answers. So we're looking for a leader that who can take over. We are in unprecedented COVID times. We're looking for a leader um, who can help with the situation, help the jobless people, help the communities to cope up with the situation and come out of this pandemic we're looking for support from you. Looking for a hand, get supportive hand from you, your leadership, your initiatives that will make the Irvine residents safer and feel comfortable to going forward. So thank you both for your time today. Back to Kishore to provide concluding comments and end this call for today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mahesh. And yes, the purpose of this debate is to make the Irvine residents and the voters all together an informative session to understand their next leader, or if it is re-elected, the leadership of the city. So who they want, and it will have like a complete idea and their visions, their strategies, like their mindset. And so hopefully this is an informative session for all the residents. So with this information, definitely they'll be making a better decision and choose the right leader and to make this Irvine a better place and continue to be a great place. And with this, I would thank Mayor Shea and Council Member Farrah Khan, and also my co-moderator Mahesh, and for the organizers who organized this valuable democracy debate in no time. I really appreciate, and also like I want to thank all the supporters and also the sponsors once again. Los Angeles Telugu Association, Elegant Culture and Tradition Center, and the Telugu Association of Southern California. And also, like, I want to thank our important partner today, the technology. It really cooperated with us and made this one happen. And even in this pandemic, like, we did not stop our democracy process, and we did it with the help of the technology. Thanks for the technology as well. So going forward, all the statements and your views that you express, hopefully, like, they'll be implemented, like, after you elect or re-elect as a mayor. And hope looking forward, and good luck for both of you. And thank you. And with this, we're going to end this debate, and we'll see you in the next session.